Thank you for joining us in the special edition of Behind the Gavel with Jason. Today, we're going to be joined by the Owen Cox Dance Group for many reasons. But thank you for watching. If you have questions you want to ask myself or any of our guests today, please post them below. We have a full docket today. And let me jump right in by bringing up Jennifer Owen and Brad Cox, the co-founders of the Owen Cox Dance Group. Jennifer and Brad, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Jason.
Thanks.
I'm so excited you're here. For those who don't know, Owen Cox Dance Group has been around for about 14 years. 2007 is when it was actually founded, according to the website. You're in your 14th season, which, of course, like everybody else's season, has a bit of a different look to it this year. And events and things are being canceled, postponed, moved around, which is why we're working together with your online auction. But why don't you tell folks real quickly a little bit about how you guys decided to start the Owen Cox Dance Group, and what you kind of want to do with that, and what you're doing with it.
Well, thank you. So Brad and I are married, and before we were married, we had done some artistic collaborations together. Brad's a composer. At the time, I was a dancer and kind of getting started with choreography. And so we had done some collaborations, music and dance, and just enjoyed it so much that we decided we wanted to kind of take the plunge and do something on a larger scale with a company. So that was 14 years ago, and we are still here, amazingly.
It's crazy how sometimes a good idea actually works, right?
It was his idea. It was.
It was his idea?
It was Brad's idea.
So let me bring in our other guests today. We're joined by Sam Wisman, Emily Mushinki, and Christopher Paige Sanders. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us today. And Emily, let's start with you. I can see Sam is doing something right now. Emily, how did you tell us a little bit about, I think you're from Kansas City area, which I think is kind of a cool thing that you're from here and get to work in a profession that you love in Kansas City. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved with Owen Cox?
Yeah, so I've been dancing for a long time now. I started when I was 4. I grew up dancing at American Dance Center, which is a predominantly ballet school in Overland Park, Kansas. I went to Lathrop East High School, so I'm really from right in this area. I met Jen actually doing a summer program at American Dance Center, and I think that was when I was 14 years old. I then went to Purchase College to pursue a degree in dance. So I graduated with my bachelor's degree there. After I graduated, I decided to come back home to Kansas City, and I reached out to Jen, and she had a space for me in her company, and I've been dancing with her since then. So
very cool, very cool. And let's go to Christopher. Why don't you tell us, Christopher, a little bit about yourself and how you ended up working with and being associated with the Owen Cox Dance Group?
Of course. So I actually met Jen and Brad when I was in college. I was a student at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And Jen was actually one of my ballet professors there. And at the time, she was getting ready to present one of the holiday concerts, The Nativity Story. And she asked me to be a part of the company and to be a part of that project. Since that project, I worked with her a little bit, and then I left after graduating. I left Kansas City to come to Denver to dance with a company there. After about 8 years, I retired from that company, and Jen was looking for some more dancers for the 10th anniversary. And so I've been back and forth between Kansas City and Denver for the past few years working with Jen, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Very cool, very cool. And then Sam, it's hard to dance without music, so we brought in a percussionist as well. Sam, oh shoot, I get the wrong button. There you go. So Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Owen Cox Group?
I grew up in Topeka, Kansas, and I moved to Kansas City for music school, went to the KC Conservatory. And I had heard of Brad through some mutual friends, and I went and saw, I think it was a Christmas show at All Souls that Brad and his group was playing. And I just went up to Brad and just told him how much I loved it, and that whatever he needed, I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a part of whatever he was up to. And so he eventually asked me to play some drums and percussion on some stuff. And my involvement with the Owen Cox Dance Group really started from the very beginning with some small shows, and just played a lot of different shows with him over the years. And, you said it's hard to talk about dance without music, but that's one of the best things about this group is their dedication to original music and live music, combining that with original choreography. And I'm not sure if I would still be in Kansas City without the outlet that the Owen Cox Dance Group has provided to me. It's just really fulfilling experience.
Well, and speaking of that output, I mean, you guys put on a pretty extensive, looking at the website and your history, you have produced and created a lot of works over the last 14 years. That seems like, I'm not a musician. I played music when I was in high school. Basically, that time I really played anything. Partly because making money and a living at it seemed like it was an impossible task. But I assume you have other jobs and things like that. But still, who is responsible for the majority of the compositions, the dancing, and how do you find time, Jennifer and Brad and the rest of you, to create those things and then perform them and study them and practice them? Because none of you, all of you are involved with many different projects, looking at your bios and things like that. It just seems like it's quite overwhelming to me as an outsider looking in. Jennifer and Brad, why don't you talk about that, and then we'll talk to Emily and Christopher and Sam about it a little bit.
Sure.
Well, that's a good question, Jason. It is a tremendous amount of work, but when it's something that you really are passionate about and you really want to do, as an artist, I think, all artists will agree that when you're born wanting to do something, it becomes a gift to be able to do it. And so we'll do, all sorts of, take what steps are necessary, the fundraising, the, marketing, all of the organizing in order to be able to, produce performances and artistic projects. So.
Well, I think what you said there is really important. I want to really quickly I want to read your mission statement, because I think it's so important to this conversation at large, to give people who are watching an idea of what is behind the group at the base level. The Owen Cox Dance Group, his mission is to create new music and dance collaborations to present high-quality contemporary dance performances with live music and engage as wide an audience as possible to affordable live performance, education, and outreach programs. And, you mentioned the Bolshoi Ballet to Dave Brubeck, Leningrad Chamber Orchestra to Alvin Ailey. Those are lofty names, and you've done a lot of work. But so to go back to what we talked about, how do you find time? Emily and Christopher, you're our dancers on the panel here today. You're both involved with many productions, is what I could tell. How do you keep that all straight? And how do you find time to work on all those and then lead your other lives? Because I assume you have lives beyond just the dance.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. I think it just all comes down to scheduling, really. You got to lay out your schedule, everything that you're doing, exactly how much time each thing takes, and then you have to just really balance commitments and things like that. So outside of performing, one of the biggest things that I do is teach. I teach yoga, I teach dance, and those things I'm really committed to, and I have a big heart for teaching. So that's something that is a huge priority of mine to continue to upkeep. And then outside of that, I get to enjoy the times when we get to rehearse with Owen Cox or other small projects that might come up. But it just all comes down to listing your priorities. And yeah, this has been a specifically challenging year for all of that, especially as an artist. But.
Yeah, I would definitely piggyback on Emily that it really does come down to scheduling. I would have to say pre-COVID, I was really thankful because Jen would let us know what the season might be at the beginning of the year, so that we could plan accordingly to see what projects we would be able to be a part of or what projects we may not be able to be a part of. And so allowing people like myself who don't live in Kansas City, I actually live in Denver, to know ahead of time how to make the travel work, and when I would be able to, when I would be available to work with Jen and the company, because it really, really is a beautiful and remarkable experience. And keeping it all together, I would definitely piggyback and say that it is about priority, but also in the beautiful thing is that there are many works that we may do throughout the season. So Jen has a really beautiful process. So we're able to really keep everything together and keep everything in shape and maintained. And it becomes really easy to do so, after you've been there for a while.
So you mentioned you're in and live in Denver. It seems I saw that on the bio. It's like was he from Denver? So you actually travel from Denver to Kansas City to perform in these shows when they're actually happening.
Yeah. Yes, I do. So
that just boggles my mind. It seems to me like there would be dance companies in Denver doing similar works. Why are you so dedicated to Jennifer and Brad and what they're putting together?
I enjoy the process. I enjoy the dancers. I enjoy Kansas City. I'm originally from St. Louis. So going to college in Kansas City was lovely for me. I enjoy the work. It's really, truly a family. Owen Cox Dance Group is really a family. And many of the dancers, there are quite a few dancers who also fly in from around the country to dance with Jen when we're in season, in a normal season. So yeah, there's quite a few of us who come in town for the 3 weeks or 4 weeks that we are in season, and it becomes really a part of your life, and it's lovely to do.
That's awesome. That's so cool to me that you would do that. It seems great. Sam, same kind of question to you. I know it's different and similar, but how do you keep track of, you have a bunch of pieces of music, making sure you don't like bring the wrong piece of music in your head to the drums, and all of a sudden you're playing something in 4/6 as opposed to 3/4, and the dancers are all going, "What the hell's going on?"
Well, sometimes with Brad's music, we do both at the same time. We play multiple meters at the same time. But I would say, going back to the early days of the group and prioritizing and, choosing what projects to do and be a part of, Brad and Jen, I think, were able to bring together some of the busiest
You still there, Sam?
musicians in town, and some of the best musicians in town.
I caught part of what you're saying. I know you're at home. I'm betting the kids are on Wi-Fi a little bit. You said something along the lines of they have great music, and that's part of the reason why you continue to work with them.
Yes, I mean,
Shay is watching.
Yeah, early on, especially with the group, they're able to bring together some of the best, busiest musicians in town, and we all just wanted to be a part of it because it was fun and challenging and rewarding, and they have a real they expect a lot, but they're able to do it in a really nice way, and so for musicians, that's a nice change of pace sometimes. So we appreciate what they're trying to do.
So they create good things, and they're good to work with and for, as Shay Estes is saying there, because they're awesome to work for and with. I'm assuming Shay is another performer in your group.
Yeah.
Of some sort. That's all amazing stuff. It's just, part of the reason I do this show is because as an auctioneer, I get to perform, and all of our work for 7 years now has been online. So I was like, I want to see people and engage with people. So I'm going to create my own show, and that's what this is all about today. So in a non-COVID year, where do you guys generally perform? I saw the Nelson, different colleges. Actually, before we get to that, I think something that's really important, and you say in your mission statement, and Emily talked about it, education and outreach programs. Emily teaches. You do things at Paseo. Tell us a little bit about that. Are the performers involved with those works as well, with that work as well? And why is that so important to you guys?
Yeah, well, with the connection with Paseo, we first established that when we were doing our jazz production of the Nutcracker and the Mouse King, and we involved some students from Paseo Fine and Performing Arts, and so that was really nice. And then we continued to kind of foster that relationship. So we continue to go in and yearly do master classes and sometimes do early performances for them and things like that. And we also have an educational outreach program called Take the Stage that goes into public schools, and it's geared toward fourth graders, and we give a year-long residency to fourth graders in public schools. Obviously, that's not going on this year, but when we've been doing some video projects in the meantime to kind of tide things over for that program, for the Take the Stage program.
Yeah, one of the about the Take the Stage program is, we love being able to perform for audiences, but with Take the Stage, the students in the schools become the performers, and the program culminates at the end of the year with a performance. It's often at the Gem Theater, where all the schools come together and the kids perform on a stage, and it's a very special experience for them. So we can't wait to be able to do that again.
Very cool. And then for Sam, Emily, and Christopher, I want to say Stephen for some reason. Are you obviously, Emily, you said you teach, but are you involved with their outreach that they do for those programs or other things like that? Obviously in Denver, it'd be hard to come here and be involved with the school specifically, but do you guys take that same mission to heart?
So there are many times throughout our season that we will do student matinees. We'll do student matinees at like Paseo, or we've done some at other elementary schools while we're in season, getting ready for the different shows that we are presenting throughout the year. And it's a really beautiful way to connect with young people. We also do a lot of master classes at Paseo to connect with those young people and with those aspiring young artists. And so that's a really, really beautiful way to just be a part of community and get to inspire young dancers and young artists, and they also inspire us at the same time. So yes, we are.
Very good.
Yeah.
I've been a part of those Take the Stage end of the year shows, and they're really one of my favorite shows of the year. They're really inspiring to be a part of, and the kids are so awesome, and the work that they do at Take the Stage is really great, and it's awesome to see the kids backstage. They're so excited about it and just can't wait to perform. So it's really rewarding.
Very cool. And Emily, what do you have to say about that? I assume you're involved with those things as well.
Yeah, so the performances at Paseo at the Academy have always been just really, really fun. It's a show that we do typically right before we would perform for like general audience. And so it's just a nice way to kind of see it all happen on the stage. And the kids are always so excited to see it. And then on top of that, Jen usually teaches a master class, and we get to take class alongside them. So it really is just like a cool sharing experience, which is awesome. And then they learn rep, which is also really fun to help. Yeah, I think Chris has taught that a couple times in the past, and he's done a great job. And so we just get to go around and like help the kids with like the little intricacies of movement and stuff. So
cool.
It's great.
And you mentioned something. Oh, schools are important. And I noticed it seems like UMKC is there's a lot of commonalities with UMKC. Is that where you get most of your talent from, Jennifer and Brad? I mean, it seems like that. I see that in a lot of the bios and information that UMKC is really almost like a hub of your existence.
Well, it's certainly, a very vibrant educational organization in the community. So yes, I mean, it draws a lot of talent from all over the country and the world. So when we did the Goldberg Variations with Kairi Kushoyeva, she's a pianist from Kyrgyzstan, but she was getting her doctorate in piano performance at UMKC. So yeah, I mean, it's like we don't have to go somewhere to, they come here, and we were able to work with these incredible artists. So I think there's definitely a connection there. I think in the same way that like the Kansas City Art Institute here in Kansas City is, it connects a lot of people in the visual arts as well. So we live like walking distance from UMKC too, so it's great.
Yeah, there is a lot of talent that ends up going through UMKC. And I was thinking about as Emily and Christopher both said that they met Jennifer originally when they were students, when they were quite young and when they were students. And, I think Jennifer just has such an eye for people who are really talented, and she just kind of spotted them both right away and thought, oh, these guys really stand out.
It's hard to miss. I mean, you can't miss talent. I mean,
It does stand out, doesn't it? No matter which genre or field you're in, those who are talented always rise to the top. And it's easy to see, looking at the videos, that the work you guys are doing is just amazing. We talked about COVID, pandemic, all the BS that's surrounding that this year. One of the things that's interesting to me is that you're actually having a virtual showing this weekend through Johnson County Community College. Is that right? The Carlson Center. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so every year, Johnson County Community College commissions new works for dance companies. It's been Owen Cox Dance Group, Williams Henry, and Kansas City Ballet, Sterling Dance Theater. And this year, they commissioned a piece for Ensemble Iberica. They work with a flamenco dancer, Melinda Hedgeforth. And so that is part of the project. So there will be 4 premieres. Johnson County Community College was amazing in providing this really like top quality camera crew and video editing. And so the choreographer that created a work on us is based in New York. Her name is Kylie Kwan. She recently retired from Ballet X and now is focusing on choreography. And she rehearsed with the dancers entirely on Zoom. Chris was in Denver. One of our dancers was in Minneapolis. I'm sorry. Emily was in Kansas City. Laura and Winston and Latara were in Kansas City. And so it was a very different creative process. But if you can imagine, doing meetings on Zoom, trying to do a rehearsal on Zoom, dancing in your living room, it's different. And I know sometimes dancers were able to get studio space and be there to move around a little bit more. But I'm so excited to premiere the piece. It's absolutely gorgeous and stunning. And I think Kylie has a really good eye for choreographing for the camera and choosing locations that are going to be really intriguing and beautiful. And so yes, please tune in. It's Friday at 7:00, I think, is when you can start streaming it at the Johnson County Community College's website. So, yes.
And I've got the on the screen right now, either at owencoxdance.org or the longer one, OCDG Virtual Access. That's on their website. It's right on the homepage. If you're interested, please go there and check it out. It should be a really interesting thing to watch that you can't find anywhere else. And is this going to be recorded and put out later, or is it just this weekend you have to watch it?
No, it will be out there. So if you miss it this weekend, we will make sure that you have the opportunity to see it. And the composer for the piece is actually Stacy Bush, who is also our operations manager. She wears many hats, but she's first and foremost a composer and really does incredible work. So it's a really cool collaboration, and we're excited to see what the other companies have done too. So I know Williams Henry videoed their piece in the theater. We used various locations. We're at the Nerman Museum, and Chris, you were like somewhere in Denver. It looked like you're in a canyon.
Red Rocks, yeah. Red Rocks.
And Emily and Laura were in a parking lot and in a parking garage hallway. It was really, so you won't want to miss it.
So speaking of, you're talking about practicing on Zoom in your living room, Christopher and Emily, I mean, the stage is huge. I mean, even a small stage is a lot of space. Most living rooms don't have the capacity to allow you to really do that. How did you practice not only on Zoom, but in quarters that are not designed for dancing?
Yeah. You go, Chris. You go.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Emily. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'll go. I think that it's just you got to do what you got to do. You move the furniture, you give yourself as much space as you possibly can, and then you're careful not to kick your couch, but it was the best when we could reserve like studio space, because then we could actually have a space to be in. But I mean, it's just one of those things. You got to make some sacrifices and make it work.
Yeah.
That's one thing really, I'm sorry, just real quick, I just want to say how impressed I am, like, with the artists, the dancers, doing all that on Zoom. Like, they just are so passionate about what they do that they will make anything work. And they didn't complain. Like, I would have complained if I was, asked to dance on concrete in the wind and the rain, and it was a really cold day, and not a peep of complaining came out of this. Amazing. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. You do what you have to do. I mean, that's the work, and that's also it especially during this time reminded you of why you were a dancer and just the opportunity to move. The beautiful thing is that one of my solos was created in my kitchen, so Kaylee literally used my kitchen to create and cultivate movement. So that was really nice. But there are still times that I hit the kitchen table and probably smacked my hand on the refrigerator. But then you just keep pushing, you just keep moving. So yeah, I'm sure there's like a blooper reel.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about this. We supported this year Peregrine Honing and the West 18th Street Fashion Show, when they went to doing a fashion show in a movie that was at the Boulevard Drive-In. And it was interesting to talk to Peregrine and the creative force behind that about doing some of those same things, having all these Zoom meetings about creating a fashion show virtually in a movie setting and then going around and filming it in these spaces. And it sounds like very much the same. You guys were inspired by it in a way because you had the opportunity to do something while it's easy to get bogged down in the reality of the outside world at the moment. So it's always fascinating for me to talk to real, true creative people. Sam, I know that you must have been practicing on Zoom as well, but practicing music on Zoom is a little easier than dance because you just need the space for your percussion, right? Or is it challenging? I'm sure it's challenging, but so what is your take on that?
Playing at the same time with other people is extremely challenging. And certainly takes a lot more bandwidth than most people have, I think. Certainly with my kids in school right now over there, it's a challenge. But what's been really fun is recording projects and learning to contribute to musical projects in that way, building a home studio. And so what's nice is that you can't be in the same room, but you can collaborate with people all over the world that maybe you never would have been able to work with. And that's interesting and fun for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get down to the business of the broadcast real quick. And I'm going to put this up here right now. So obviously this is, one of your main jobs or one of your jobs is being involved with a dance group like this is fundraising. And generally you do an event every year, a dinner and gala and auction, things like that. Of course, that's not happening. That's how we're involved. We're really excited to be involved with that. Here's the link to that. So tell me what, Jennifer and Brad, what have you found to be good and bad about the transition to having this event being online this year? And I'm assuming as soon as we can meet again, you'll have the dinner because it's about so much more than just raising the funds. It's about seeing people and engaging people and hopefully hugging and shaking hands again at some point. Tell us a little bit about moving it to online, and then what are your one or two favorite things in the auction this year?
Wow. Well, I think one thing that was really just beautiful was the amount of support we received from the community, businesses and individual artists. And it feels strange asking people for support during a time when, businesses might be closing or just really, really strained. But we found that we got some really wonderful donations, and other arts groups donated tickets for the 2022 season. So I mean, just knowing that just trying to support one another is a really, really evening. We have some very cool works of art. Let's see, Lester Goldman. He passed away in 2005, but he was a very revered professor at the Kansas City Art Institute of painting. He was there from 1960. He was many years. Yeah. 40 years. And so we have a beautiful painting of his. And Hugo Zimello Salido is a fabulous Mexican-American artist, has his own kind of artistic voice.
Very vibrant.
Yeah, it's beautiful. He got into painting. So you can check that out as well. And then Linda Lighton, who is an incredible artist, ceramicist. She donated the work as well. It's very cool. We're honored to be able to have these artworks in auction. And then, of course, there are restaurants and yoga.
Lots of other things. Lots of
a spa for your dog, something for everyone.
Because every dog needs a spa day.
Yeah.
The Lighten piece made me smile because it's a banana, ceramic banana. And I don't know if you guys knew that last year there was a guy who took at the Miami Art Biennial, I think it was. He sold a banana duct taped to the wall for $120,000.
Yes, I heard.
Three times. I was like, wow, that's insane. And then I saw the Lighten banana. I was like, I should put a piece of duct tape over that, virtually, and say it's not 120 grand. It's just. I thought that immediately recalled that. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm going to do this real quick. Behind the Gavel with Jason's usually on Friday mornings, 11:45. This week, our guest is going to be Scott Jones, talking about benefit auctions and going virtually this year. And we're excited to have him. Kind of seems apropos that we're having information about that today. If you have questions for me or anybody here on the show today, you can always send us an email at info@kcauctioncompany.com. Give us a phone call at 816-283-3633. And of course, you can see all of our previous episodes on our website, kcauctioncompany.com. We have a link to Behind the Gavel on the YouTube page. We also put this on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. If we can find a social media platform for it, we will put it out there. Sam, Emily, Jennifer, Brad, and Christopher, thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to getting response from this. And thank you so much for sharing your passion and your joy with me today. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Sure.
Thank you. Great to see everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.